So 17 in large part was that moment where it went from concept to, okay, we flipped the switch, we're going.
Yep.
All right. You indicated you were on Shark Tank the year before it aired, which was 2020, so it's 2019-ish. You prepared to go on the show around 2019 with a valuation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What was that valuation then? What was the valuation in 20 when it aired? And what's the valuation today? If you can talk about...
I could talk about the valuation on the show. We can't talk about valuation these days.
Fine.
But so on the show, we had asked for $400,000 for 10% of the company.
Okay.
At that time, we had launched a Kickstarter campaign. That's where we actually really got going, was on Kickstarter. And that was February of 2019. So when Kickstarter was like our soft launch, February of 2019. Then Shark Tank we shot later that year. And then the valuation at that point on the show was $4 million. We'd actually already raised dollars a little bit higher than that, a little bit higher valuation. And then the following year, like every year, it went up, I would say somewhat exponentially.
Okay.
But at that point, again, once you have sales data, the valuation is much more based on historicals paired with vision versus just overall vision.
Of course.
Because also an early stage investor is going to understand if they're, even on Shark Tank, if they're going to take 70% of your business for $500K, the business will fail because there's not enough equity to go around. Like you don't get 100 points in business.
Makes sense.
So, but at the same time, an investor wants a chunk of the business because if they're taking a huge risk, they want to be rewarded for that. And so the earlier they invest, the higher the risk.
And you need these investors. Like the key thing to what you pointed to earlier, you have an idea, you're an entrepreneur, you're hungry, you're go-getters, but if you don't have money, you don't have the resources, it's a short-lived
100%
existence.
And we always feel, right? Like I think that some companies, they really, really push for a high valuation because they don't want to dilute themselves as founders, which I understand. But at the end of the day, you got to think like an investor sometimes. Like when Josh and I go to investor meetings, we always think about what they'd be thinking and say, what we'd be thinking and saying if we were on the other side of the table. We're like, if the company's doing $1 million in sales, you're valuing yourself at 50 mil, like you're just looking like an idiot, right? And I mean, maybe some high tech, like some crazy tech play and you have some IP or whatever. But for us, it's more like we want the deal to be fair. We don't, if we've won the deal, then that investor probably won't invest in us again. They probably won't be excited to help. But if they've won the deal, then we're probably going to hold a grudge over it for some time, hypothetically. And like, it's just not going to be a great relationship. We were talking about this last night. It's even just like influencer deals, partnerships, like anyone that you bring in the company, whether it's social media, whether it's an investor, you want it to be fair.
Right.
Because that's just like a push and pull. It's how relationships work.
A good deal is a good deal for both people.
100%.
And unfortunately, a lot of people think one way, which is, well, they can do better. Well, maybe, but that's not a good deal then. Then you're short-living that experience with that person. I go through this often with a lot of my friends, and just as we talk about things in general, buying a car. All right, so if you got over on somebody at the dealership and you felt you won, and okay, that's great, but you still got to go back there. Don't you want them to? They're going to make it up somewhere, and they may, again, at different moments have different opportunities and vice versa. But a good deal is a deal that's good for both parties.
100%.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check this one out right here because it's just as good, or maybe even better. Cheers.